Okay, guys, I'm back, and this is probably going to be one of the most important sessions that you can take part in. This is going to be the session on working with leads. Now, I'm guessing primarily you all spend 80% of your time working with leads when you're working inside of Inflatable Office. And this is going to probably be the area where you're going to have the most difficulty changing how you work inside of the product. It's probably going to be the area where you get the most frustrated with us. So I'll say that up front. And it's probably the area I'm sorry about that. I muted there? I might have been. Okay. So that was there. So let me just start over real quick because I think maybe I was muted there. The leads area is going to be probably the most important thing that you're going to learn here of all these sessions, because I know you guys work mostly in the leads area, and you're going to have trouble changing, I think. You're probably also going to have trouble um, learning that new system, and you're probably going to get frustrated, and we're probably going to have to make some changes to make it work better for you. So let me start with that, and I'm going to cover, and I'll go through some of the things we've already heard from people and some of the changes that we want to be making. Like I said, with all the work we're doing on the Office upgrade, which is very, very extensive, consider all of the things that Inflatable Office does and then decide to change them and redo them and make them new. It's something that we've developed over 15 years to then try to update in a matter of a couple of years is a lot of work. So please be patient with us. We are doing our best to go through that. So let's get started. Um, let's look at leads. We went through a little bit with the lead list here um, and how to use that in the last session. So I'm not going to belabor that. We're going to look directly at leads. I'm going to start by looking at a lead that is already built, because I think that it's easier to see, even though this is demo data and it's not always the best looking data and not always what you might see in a real lead. It still is, I think, easier to see what's going on. So one of the things that people have been that have transferred over so far have been concerned about is the amount of scrolling to get to the different sections. Okay. Previously on the old system, and I'll go back here just to show you, when you were working with a section, you could see all of the sections pretty quickly by just clicking through them. But once you started to edit a section, you could no longer get to those other sections. We wouldn't let you do that, okay? But it was all fairly condensed and fairly tight. Um, that is one of the biggest things that we've heard complaints about so far. And let me just talk a little bit about why everything looks bigger in this version. Because this version is also going to be doing our mobile responsive for any screen size. You're going to be able to get in here and work with it with your fingers. Because of that, it's necessary to make these inputs a lot bigger, to space them out a little bit more, so that when you're working on your smaller devices, you can actually do it. Now, that said, I think we can probably come up with a way to detect when you're not on a small device and kind of make it work a little better for you. And that's something that we're going to think through. So one of the things that people were frustrated with was all this scrolling. But I want to make it clear that, what we've done here is we've added all of the sections in. So you now, for one, you're not just clicking to look. When you click it, you can look and you can edit at the same time. Okay, you don't have to click an edit button. That's taking a step away from you. You also can get to any section you want and edit it at any time you want, within reason. I think there are a few things like attachments on a new lead. You can't add an attachment until you've actually saved the lead. So there's a few things, like little things like that. But one of the things I want to show you, and you're going to be used to scrolling. What you're going to want to probably do if you want to get quick at using it is getting used to using this menu over here, this navigation menu in the sidebar. If I want to get to the customer, scrolling down, it takes a little bit, right? But if I want to get to the customer when someone calls in and I click over here, I'm there immediately. So that's something that I think will really help you save a lot of time. I think honestly, it's even if I'm scrolling from customer to venue, just one section, I kind of tend to just click on it because I feel like it's much faster than even scrolling a small amount. I just come over here and I click on it. So that's something I would like to encourage you to do as you're using this. And like I said, one of the things that we will be trying to do is tighten this up a little bit so that there is more, a little less space here, and it's a little easier for you to use. One of the other things that people have brought up with it is just that these sections may not be the order that they would prefer them to be in. Some of the things are in a slightly different order than they were before. And what we've tried to do here is we've tried to switch our order around to the way people tend to use it most. Everybody is different, and so we know we're not going to hit the right order for everybody. But never fear, what we will be doing is we will be allowing you to alter the order of these different sections. Okay, we haven't put the time into that yet, but it's something that we're planning on doing. So if you want the customer section on top, if you want to fill out their information as soon as they call you, we will put that on top, or allow you to put that on top if you want. So that is coming. So never fear on that either. So, but the way we've set this up right now is, in general, when people call you, they're asking for an item and its availability. And so that is kind of the first section that you're going to see outside of the statuses. And again, we keep the statuses on top because those are so crucial and important to the lead. You can see that we've also changed the color of the header up here to match with the color of the status. So it's really easy, even if you're not looking at the status, to see what the status is by just looking at that color, okay? We've also made this status bar scrollable. In this case, we don't have that many statuses, but I know some of you have a lot of statuses. And so we've made that scrollable. So when you have a lot of statuses, it's not going to look bad. It's going to be centered on the status that you're currently set to, but you'll have the ability to scroll over and change that status, okay? The next thing that you're probably going to see here is our timeline. This is how you set your times for your events. And what we've tried to do here is show you graphically a little bit more information so you can kind of see at a quick glance what your timing looks like for your event, okay? You can see we have this green, which is our travel. We have our setup. We have our event. We have our teardown over here, and then we have our travel again, okay? And what we're doing is we're intertwining these with the reworking of the delivery planner so that the colors will all match. We'll probably give you the ability to customize those at some point. Things that you save on the travel planner are going to make their way back over to this. So that's want to kind of try to bring that all together for you. Something else that you're going to see happening in the next release in January is you're going to see the sunrise and the sunset show up on here, and it's going to look pretty neat. So look forward to that so you can kind of get an idea of when it's happening in the day as well. So if you wanted to edit any of these things, this is a lead that's already saved. It's simple. You click on it, you pick the date, say we wanted to move it forward a day. I'm going to click it twice because I can do a range. So I can make it a long event, or I can make it just happen on that day. And then I'm setting my start time here. And I'm setting my end time over here. And I just click apply, and there we go. It's changed, and it'll adjust this as well. So it's slightly different for some of these other fields because they don't take a date and time. They're based just on a duration. So if I made this really big, let's say I have a really big setup for this, you see the timeline automatically adjusts. And this isn't completely linear because there are times when you may decide that you want to set your delivery window the day before. And if for us to make it completely linear, it would take a lot of space on your screen. So to make it completely linear, we couldn't do that. But it still does give you an idea of the size or duration of these periods. You can see here, here's our delivery window. We could, if we were to make it bigger, let's go ahead and make it, that was at a single time. So let's make it a couple hours. And now you can see we have a delivery window here. Same with the teardown window. It's going to show up on the other side. Let's see, I'll just set it to that it recommends. And so you can see these are empty spaces here, these gray spaces. That's just a break in the time. Because of these windows are times that you're going to show up, we show basically the worst case scenario. So we put we're going to say in this case, we're going to show that you're going to arrive at the end of the window, which gives you the least amount of time before the event. Obviously, you may arrive at the beginning of the window. So, but we don't know that. You don't know that, which is why you put a window there. When you save in the delivery planner, you're going to actually say what time you will arrive. And before, we used to overwrite these windows in cases. Now we don't do that anymore. You can turn that off, and we'll still keep the window as well as show you when exactly you plan to arrive on this chart. And that, I think, is done with like a red line, and it shows up on the timeline. Same thing with the delivery. The return window here, we're going to use the extent. So we're going to say that you don't show up to pick up the equipment till the very end of that window. And until we know more, like until you actually route it with the delivery planner, we're going to leave it there. Once you route it, we'll set it in the right spot. But this is kind of the worst case scenario. It makes your equipment out longer. So, okay. So that's kind of how the timeline works. And we can clear these things as well. We just click on them here and we say clear, and there it goes. It's gone. We can access them all over here as well. So we don't have to click up here. We can just click here and say, I want to edit that. And we can edit it right there. Okay. So that's the timeline, and we're going to continue to do more work with that and make it as user-friendly as we possibly can. We think it's trying to make it a little more visual for you. It's going to be a little easier for you to prevent mistakes. We've put a lot of error checking into this, and we'll probably continue to do that to prevent you from doing things that you don't intend to do, such as use AM instead of PM or so forth, or other things like that. So the next section here is the rental section. So the rental section is going to look a lot like maybe an invoice. If you guys use accounting software like QuickBooks, this should look fairly familiar to you, where you have a list of items. In this case, we only have one. And then we have our totals kind of down here. I guess one of the differences is that we put some of these line items down here as opposed to stretching them across, because they technically wouldn't have a quantity and so forth. So that might be one difference. Let me add a few more items here, and I'll show you how we add items to it. So this little arrow here is telling us that we can slide that over, and we can look at our list of items. One of the big changes to the way we do this in our new Office upgrade is that this actually shows our availability. So this is a true availability right here. Here's how many are available. This isn't how many we have in stock normally. This is how many are truly available at the time. So if I were to add this one on, let's see if I can get one to show unavailable. I'm trying to work through some of these tents because I know that the tents are related to each other, but it doesn't look like I'm getting it to fail. But if we had one that was unavailable, we would see a negative here or a 0. If it was unavailable, if we were overbooked, we would see a negative here. When we add an item, it's only going to add a quantity of 1. So if you then later decide, actually, I need 5 of these, you can see we have availability here as well. Now it's going to show there's an issue. We don't have those available. If we were to click on this, we're going to see what it is that's causing the issue. We can see it is related to the lead that we are currently on, and we can see how we're overbooked here. So I think we only have 3 available of these. Yeah, and that makes, and you can see how these tents are related. they are a parent-child structured rental item, and so they do play off each other. So now we're showing you your availability. So if you know you have 200 chairs, but you know some of them are rented, we're going to show you that without you having to kind of start guessing by typing in the number to see when you go over the the amount that you have. Originally we figured, well, the customer's going to request 100. You're going to type 100 in there, and then you'll know how many you need, or if you have enough. In this case, if the customer calls and they're saying, we need 400 blue vases with flowers, you can immediately look at that and say, well, I only have 200 available. So it's a little faster for you to do that. But yeah, you can add these items on. Oh, here we're seeing what it looks like to have an unavailable item in the list here. So it's very clear. Let me see if I can add one on here that has some options. And with this list, we can easily search. So if I wanted to find what I'm looking for quickly, I just start typing. We don't lose our quick add option. We don't lose our vendor option. So those are still available if you want to add a quick add item, maybe something that you don't normally rent, but you're going to that time specifically for that person, or maybe an item that you're going to sublease from another vendor. You can set those up really quickly and easily just by using those. In this case, I want to do the popcorn because I think, yeah, we have accessories to our popcorn machine. So you can see when I added that in, it also added this other accessory. And this accessory is a required item. So that's why I can't remove it. It goes with the popcorn machine for my settings. And so I can't make any adjustment to that. What we also see here is our list looks different, okay? It's saying what we're seeing here now are the popcorn machine accessories. So here's an additional accessory I have that I could add to it if I want. I'm gonna go ahead and add that. So now I no longer have any more accessories, but I could remove it, and it goes back here. Now, this little back will say, let's say I don't want to add any more accessories, or I've added all I want, and I want to go back to the main list. I just click this, and I'm back on the main list. I can also search by category here. I can either type in a category. If I typed in ride, okay, there's a lot of rides. Or if I just want to scroll through it, I can scroll through it and find what I want and click on it. And I just see that category's information. So I can also search within the category. So if I wanted to be on that category and then search, it's just going to show me in that category things that match. Okay, so that's really easy to do. Let's say I changed my mind and I want to add an accessory to this popcorn machine. So I see this little list icon here. I just click that little list icon and I get right back to those accessories and I can add it on. One of the reasons why we've designed it like this is because we're making it to handle multi-level items, okay? So what we do here is we will make it possible in the future, and I think we go up to 3 levels right now, but we'll make it possible in the future to have, when you choose an accessory, to have accessories to that accessory and accessories to that accessory and so forth. And it'll be real simple to get to those just by clicking here. And this design allows us to kind of go back and forth and do that as much as we need. So there is a lot to cover on leads, and we are probably not going to get through everything today that you might want to get into. And so I would encourage you to mark your calendars for our January session as well, because I will try to bring in some things that we might not have covered in this session, just related to leads. Because just looking at this rental list right here, there is so much to see and so much to learn. So I'm going to keep going through it here, but we can see, in addition to adding our available number here, we now have line item discounts. Now I know this has been an issue for some people where they want to discount an item that is a taxable item. They need it to show as a line item discount so that it's clear that the tax shouldn't be charged on that discount. You can now do that. So if I were to type in a discount here, you notice it does not adjust this. However, it does adjust our subtotal. And you can watch that. I'll clear it so you can see. Watch this number down here change. So that's how that works. So now we can add line item discounts if we want. We also allow you to choose whether it's taxable or not, all the way down the line. We could say, no, I don't want to charge tax on that. So we can take that one out of there and not charge tax on it if that's, and the default field here will be based on how you've set up your items. So if by default you mostly charge tax, you might set it up that way and then maybe occasionally need to make that adjustment. But we now allow you to do that. The other thing that you can do here with rentals is you can get to a lot more information, and that's simply by clicking on the line item. You can see that what it does is it expands below, and we get a lot more information here about these rentals. Some things that you've never been able to do before. Here we can add some notes. So if we wanted to make a note about this item specifically, like maybe this 20 by 20 tent, we want to say, oops, give me 1 second here. We want to say, customer not allowed to add a heater. So maybe that needs to be very clear and on the contract and maybe invoice and so forth. We would put it in here. We have a new variable for you to use to get that reflected on your invoices, in your contracts and so forth. Over here, you can see you can now add your volunteers and your staff per item. So if you have a deal with a customer and you're saying, well, for this price, we'll send 2 staff, you can put that in there and show it on the contract very easily now. You can see the recommended amounts are listed here based on your settings. And these settings, it's not recommending any staff, which is probably right for a tent. We have over here the electric that's required for this. By hovering or clicking on it. Over here, we can put this item in maintenance, much like the old system. And we click here, we can go directly to the item. I'm going to open up in a new tab here because I want to save that. But we can go directly to the item to make any changes or see additional information should we need to. And then this affects our order. Okay, so if we want to order stuff and we'll fix this so it doesn't wrap because that looks a little funny. But we can adjust the order. We can move this to the bottom of the list, move it back to the top. We can move it by a single item, however we want to do it. And then we have, if this were to be a vendor item, we would have additional information down here. Here's how you set a custom time on it, or you can reset it and keep it the same as the event times. So all of the stuff that you used to be able to do, plus a whole lot more. Below these rental items, we're going to get into some of the summaries. Now you can see we have totals here. We show totals for electric, totals for volunteers, and totals for staff. Okay, we can edit these if we don't want to use the individual staff and volunteer items on here. We can edit it here, and we can set a global one. Maybe we don't need to specify per item, but we want to let them know we're sending 6 people and they need to provide 4 people or something. We can do that. We can override our electric if we want, where maybe our settings say it requires 2 outlets, but we don't want to do that. We want to actually require 4. We can do that if we want, and you'll see these asterisks will show up whenever we're overriding what's set on these list items. Okay, if we were to clear this back out, we'll see that will disappear and it goes back to 2. Okay, so we still allow you to do those things. If you want to set it globally, you can do that. Here we have our line items, much like we do in the old UI. Not much different here. Possibly the way you're adding these is slightly different, but you can see you can pick a discount, a fee, or a coupon. And again, in the case of a coupon, it gives you a drop down. You don't actually type the coupon in, you have to select one, and it only shows the ones that apply to what we're working on. So we see the subtotal down here. Again, you can change any of these that you need to change, just like you could on the old version, no problems. Our sales tax down here, if you hover over this, it's going to, or click on it, it's going to show you your taxable versus non-taxable, just like in the old UI. So you can see if you question the calculation, you can do your own calculation there. And then we have the total Now, one of the things we have done here is brought over the deposits and over to this area here. It used to be on a separate tab, but you can see what the required deposit is right here. And you can customize it if you want for this lead. So you can pick percentage or dollars, and then you can put in what you want that to be, or you can leave it the same. You can leave it like your settings want it to be. So a few things over here. If you get any messages, special messages, you might see over here, like this was the customer actually did an auto booking here, and this is when it occurred. Once you've handled that, I usually say just clear it. And then when we save, it'll actually clear. This shows you how they got there, what checkout process they went through. And then if you're using a referral, this will allow you to set it, or possibly the customer set it as they came through. So because we're trying to bring everything together here, we've actually added the payments in next. But like I said, you're not going to use the payments as frequently as everything else. So it's kind of hidden, but we can show it real simply. And what we've done here is we've made it possible for you to take a payment. If you're doing payments through one of the merchants in our system, you can do it directly here. You can add a manual one in if you take a check. If we do a check here, we can do that. We can just add it in. Maybe the customer paid $100 by check, just like you could before. If you want to actually take the payment, though, you can do that. You can choose how much you want to pay and enter their information in down here on the phone with them and actually take the payment. This is just an example of PayJunction, but we have all of the different merchants brought into here. So depending upon which merchants you are set to, you can do that. If you have multiple, you'll see them lined up across the top, and you can just choose the one that you want to actually use to take the payment. So real simple, and it keeps it all connected to all of these numbers up here so that you can see immediately what the balance changes to. So if I put in 500, we're going to see our balance due change. Oops. There we go. We're going to see our balance due change immediately. So we dropped by $500. So let me collapse that, and we can, some of these sections we can hide, some of them we can't right now. Just those ones that are special that we can show and hide. So down here is our venue information. So this is where we're going to put in information about where we're going to be delivering this. And one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do, oops, cursor problems here, is as you're typing this information in, look at this list that's here and pick from that list, because what it's going to do is it's going to properly make sure that we can find the address, okay? And if you can't find it, you just keep typing until you get to where you want it to be. In most cases, it'll be found in there. If you can't find it, you can still type it in on your own. But one of the things that it does is when you select that address, it makes sure that we have the location in our system. And in certain cases, we might have to update things, and see we got this little message down here. So it'll trigger us to check all those things as you're typing that in, and it'll make sure that we don't miss something. And you can see that it fills the rest of these in for you as well. A lot of this is self-explanatory here, not very different. We do have this other option here. If you're having trouble and you feel like the mapping location is not correct, you can say we need to check that geolocation. We can look at the mapping by clicking here. This is going to show us what Google's map to the location. So if we were to look at it, we could compare it then and say, okay, is that the same as what I'm seeing with my geolocation or not? Sometimes when those are different, it can cause problems with mapping. So, and obviously this is incorrect. So that would be a case where we would want to force a refresh. You'd click here and it would tell our system to go out and try to update that. And we've noticed instances where that information isn't available yet because it's maybe a new address, but this should handle most of the problems that you may run into with bad mapping on an address. So when you're doing like the delivery planner. So that's a new option that we've added to allow you guys to do. So you don't have to wait on us to do it for you. Here we have our event notes. And if you do any other optional fields that are notes related, I think they show up here as well. Here's our optional fields. In general, we collect all optional fields. Oh, it looks like those would show up down here. All those optional fields are collected in this section. So if you're using optional fields, that's where they'll be. And then down here, we have our customer section. Just look at this real quick. So one of the things you can do is transfer your addresses. So if this is the address and we know it's the same as the customer address, or we want to copy from the other address, we click that. So if I want to come down here and say, well, his address is actually the same as the venue address, I'll click here and it'll copy it over for me. So I don't have to type it in twice. It just makes it a little easier to work with. This is our customer section. And you can see that if we've got an organization assigned to this, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but we have a new section called organizations, where we've always been able to put a name there, but now we connect them so you can have multiple people listed under one organization and then work with them through that organization and do some special things like build the organization for all of their different leads that they have going on, as opposed to sending them multiple contracts for them to pay. You can send one out, like one invoice that'll let them pay for all of them at once. And that's what this link will do here. This is something that if you see these are links whenever you see these, and you can do different things with them. Okay, so this will take you to that organization, but we don't have one for this guy. Same thing here. If we want to go to the customer, we would click this. If we want to work by we want to send an email, we click the email button here, and now send our email. And if we want to make a phone call, same sort of thing, we would click this to make a phone call. Some of this stuff I'm going to try not to get into things that are the same on the old UI, such as tags. You should know about tags. They were on the old UI. Same sort of thing here. We don't clutter this by having multiple phone numbers unless you have that information. So you can click here if you want to add it. We would just click on it and we could add that number in. Next time you show it, if you didn't fill something in here, it's just not going to show, because why make it, why clutter the system here? So this here might look weird to you. This is an optional field. Certain optional fields that you set to customers will show in the customer section as opposed to the optional fields section. But one big thing that I want to show you here is we have more than one contact or more than one customer per lead. So if I want to have more people reference in here, I can do that. If maybe I dealt with one person, but there's another person that's handling the billing, we can do that. And we have different types of contacts, and we haven't gone through and completely done everything we want to do with this yet. What's probably going to happen is you're going to be able to set properties on these different types of contacts so that we know how to handle them, because we don't know, do you want to email both of them? Should only one of them get the payment information? Those are the sort of things that we're working toward with this. But at least now you can add in additional contacts and kind of keep them connected to that event that's going on. So we'll remove that for now. Down here we have our CRM section. It will be very similar to what you see in the current version. Some of the major differences is that you can actually filter it. So if you just want to look for a phone call, an email, or a journal, you can click it. Or you can just type in here if you're looking for certain words that might have been said in a voicemail, because we transcribe voicemails, different things like that. You can search for it, and it'll reduce this list to show just those things. Or if you made a journal entry, if I were to click here, I could do a journal entry really easily. And I want to maybe search for that journal entry. I could just type in some keywords, and I'd be able to find it in this list. So here is our contract section. This is probably going to look a lot different to you guys than you've ever than you've used before. I think that we've made this a little easier to use, trying to make this do all of the things that it currently does by handling vendor contracts as well as customer contracts, allowing you to have multiple contracts in here, certain ones being active, certain ones not being active, some being signed, some not, using your default contracts, disabling a contract that you may want to withdraw, also maybe I lost my train of thought there, but there's just a lot going on with contracts, signed contracts versus unsigned contracts. In general, this should not have to be touched too much unless you're doing some heavy lifting. It's already set as your default contract being active. If you wanted to edit it, you could. You click it, you immediately can edit that, and you would just click this add to add it. Once you've edited it, it becomes locked. It's no longer a template, but we could do that if we wanted. It becomes the active one. We can always view it by clicking here, and we will take it to our contract. We can edit it again, which I'm not sure we could do that in the old UI, but we can go back and make additional edits, and we can click to email it if we want. The other thing that we can do here is, let's see here. Oops, I guess I have to save that first. So let's go ahead and save this. And oh, that's what the difference was. I just have to make that active, it looks like. So if I want to go in and change it, like this was the active one, but now I want to change it, I want to go back to my default, I would just click this, make it active. If I had multiple templates in here, I could choose which one I wanted. It should be fairly similar to the old version, but if you do need help, further help with understanding that, we can kind of go through that with you. There's a lot that you can do with contracts, and so that can at sometimes make it seem complicated. So in general, you're going to want to stick with your default contract, and you're not going to want to edit it. You want to let it be a template that's updated every time you make changes above. Okay, that's typically what you're going to want. In the case of after someone signs it, you may have to come down here and choose your default again and make it active, because once they've signed it, we won't update that contract. Okay. Next section we have here is our shift section. It should be very similar, look very similar to the current shift section. You pick the people, you pick the positions. If I were to pick a position, it's going to limit the people because it's going to be based on the position. I can choose where I want them to go to meet. We can now put notes in here, and you could do that on the other system as well. So just if you weren't aware of that, you can put notes on a shift. Those will show in a couple different places, and there is a variable then that you can use in any templates. Some new things with attachments are that you can actually add the attachment right here. I just click add attachment, I pick what I want to pick, and I would say, add, and it would actually upload it and save it to that lead. You no longer always have to email it in. We'll still accept them by email, but in the case that you don't want to email it in, it's real easy to add those in now. And let me go ahead and add one just so I can show you. I don't even know what this is, some random thing on my computer. We actually show a thumbnail now, and we allow you to name it. Its default name will be the title of the file. But if you wanted to name it like, this is the tax exempt form, now you can do that. And when you save it, it's going to save it as such. And if you were, we will actually show you who put that in there too. So auto emails, very similar to before. You can look through your auto emails, and you can say, I don't want this one to go out, or I want to allow that to resend or whatever. You can do that. Instead of showing you the full list, you actually have to click in here to see the list before you can actually add the contracts or add those emails to it. So again, just trying to save space as much as possible. Our surveys area, here's our surveys area, should look very similar to before. And let's see, let me clear this. If you are using recurring leads, which is something new, that section is down here. You can say, I want this, if this is something that's a weekly or monthly rental, we can set that up. Maybe every month we want it to create a new lead. so that we can properly bill the customer. We can set an end date or leave it open-ended, and we'll actually track availability even on an open-ended thing like that. And we will just create those leads. There's a creation buffer. So like if this will tell us when we want those created, if we want it created 24 hours before, so it's going to create it, it'd be like the day before. So the last day of the month, it would actually create this lead in the system. So it doesn't get in your way otherwise, but we still do track availability, but you can do that. And then we can also make adjustments. It may not be a straight copy of the lead. We can say, well, we just, we only want to, this is the only item that's being rented monthly, and maybe the price is a little different. We told them we'd give them a discount or something. So we're going to take $25 off on the recurring rental. Same thing with these fees. You can adjust those as well. And so you can see what your total recurring bill is down here and your total recurring sales tax and so forth. And then we can also, if you have some shifts there, we can say we want to copy the shifts. What that's going to do is, if you already know that because you're doing this, you need to, maybe it's a service thing. Maybe you're going to be servicing something you have out at a location, such as a porta potty. You can say that I want to copy the shifts because I'm going to have to service it every time. And this recurring lead is really the recurring service to that unit, where we come out, we clean it, we supply the toilet paper, and we empty it out or whatever. So that's recurring leads. If you haven't gotten into that, that might be useful for you. And the last thing that we have on the leads, as we're finishing up our lead time here, and I know I'm going to have a lot of questions, so I'm not trying to get too detailed on some of this, is our log. So we've always had a log, and you can see right down here, again, we have a log. We have a search now to our log, where we can look at just emails, just user actions, or we can actually search for something. So I could search for, I want to see, I looked up browser just because I saw it then. So it's going to limit our list down to what we want to see. We can export that if we want. If we're maybe doing some investigative work on one of our employees, we could come in here and we could type, just looking for the demo user, and I want to export all the stuff that they did. We can even look at certain date range if we want. And so you have a lot more control over your log, viewing of your log here. We would occasionally get requests to do those things for you, and we thought it might be nice just to give you the opportunity to do it yourself. So that pretty much covers all that I wanted to go over with leads today. There's a lot here, and I want to open it up now for any questions that you may have. And I'll do again, kind of like what we did a bit ago, where I'll do about 10 minutes of questions, and then I'll give myself about a 5-minute break just for my voice. So it looks like Nikki has a question. So I'm going to ask you to unmute here, and I'm going to lower your hand.
Hey, cool. So one of the things that I had a quick question about is when we're doing, so up at the top, when we had the notes we can assign to the actual inventory items. So customer is not allowed to add heater, things like that. Where does that populate exactly? Does that populate in the packing list? Is that its own template variable?
It is its own template variable. So you can put it wherever you want. And give me a second here to bring open. I
couldn't find the list of template variables either.
We should probably make an easier way to get to them. But if you come down to any page that has a template in it and go down to the help info, down at the bottom of the help has our link there. And
I even tried searching in the thing, but okay.
Oh, well, we definitely need to add that to the search. But here's how to get to it right now. And so let me see if we can find that one. I'm not really even sure what that one's called. Let's try notes.
I think it's something like rental notes.
Yeah.
So it's a rental variable.
Oh, it's going to be, it would be down in the rentals section. So it's going to be way down here. And once I get there. Did I pass it? No, here's the rental section. So it's going to be a notes field right here. It is rental notes. Right here, rental notes lead. So we have two different rental notes, not to be confusing. This one is actually the notes that you put on the inventory item. and this is the one where, and you can see the designation, it's from lead, okay? So that's where you're going to actually put in, get those, that's how you're going to access that information. So I could put in any one of my templates, and as long as I'm inside my rental loop, okay, it's going to go ahead and echo that information. So, and if you're not familiar with a rental loop, let me pull something real quick here to show you what I mean by that. Like inside of a contract, we have a loop here. This is rental information, and we're going to loop through each item, each rental, and show that. So if I were to come in here and then just say, like, you know, rental notes, that would then put that in there. And I'm not sure what I just did to that template. I made a bit of a mess of it, but that's how you would add it to a template. Okay. So that could go in emails, that could go in contracts, it could go in packing lists, it doesn't matter, wherever you want it. Okay, I got some more hands here. Let's do Shauna. Go ahead and unmute yourself there, Shauna. I can do that for you if you need me to, if I can find you. Shauna. Okay, here you go.
Okay, sweet. Just further on that, I do have a question about those item comment variables. So first thing, I was wondering if we'd be able to just get like a little icon or something beside the rental item when there is a comment, because I know that, like, because you can add a comment to each item, right? So if you're but when they're closed, you can't see that there's a comment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
that looks like, yeah. I'm sure. Let me see if I save it, if it changes it. I'm not sure, but let me see. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So yeah, we can do something like that.
And the other thing is like kind of how we're utilizing those item comments is they're more for like internal comments, so they go on the packing list. And I don't know if the packing list a rental loop, or is that a packing list loop?
It does a rental loop. It's a little special, so we'd have to double check it, but I think it should work.
Okay, awesome. I'll play with it then, but I just want to make sure that each comment can go with each item on the packing list.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Give me a second here. I'm just making a couple notes here.
I'm adding that to our internal system now, that question about that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's get Nikki again. She has another question here.
Sorry, I also have babies and dogs and stuff, so apologize. When I mute, I get locked unmuted. So one of the things, the reason why I was asking about the item notes is I do outdoor movies, and we sometimes do things like movie licensing, which imports in a specific contract extra detail that's like, you know, we say we're going to do movie licensing for this. Now, currently, we have little blanks that we have to manually go in, change it, save it, and resend. With this new note, with the contract notes, it would be really cool if I could put in just the asterisk rental notes, and I could put in there the note I need for, like, I would just say asterisk rental notes in the extra contract details of that item. Now, it sounds really specific, but this is really cool and I'm super excited. So so what I would say is the movie Funflix is providing movie licensing for, and I would just type in 200 people through Swank for Big Bang Theory, I don't know, random thing. And then that would import into their contract, where currently it imports the information with some blanks and I have to manually edit them and then save them. So I don't know if there's a way to make it so that rental notes associated with the item itself. So like, you know how it says rental underscore notes, maybe rental underscore notes underscore item. So if you're putting in a specific item, it would follow, but I don't know how to make that work.
There is a way to do that.
Hey.
You have to, it's a little more work. So we have to actually get into the source code and look at it. And we would have to put, you know, some special code in here because we would have to conditionally, and I don't want to bore everybody here, but I'll just kind of type it real quick, and it probably won't even be right. But it's going to be something like this, where we would say, you know, if it's empty, rental notes, and you can do this with almost anything, then what we want to do is we just want to show nothing, a space. However, if it's not empty, we want to show this, and I actually put it in the wrong spot, but we want to show this message. So that's how you would do it, and it's going to look a little weird in your template, but when the system goes through it, and you can see it, just I don't know what I did this template, but it looks,
that's okay.
It's kind of a mess.
It's cool that it's possible, and I'll probably make a more in-depth what I'm what I'm looking at, what I'm expecting. I'll make like a little thing and send it to you, like, hey, question, how do I do this exactly? Because I can see how it would work, but I want to make sure, like, if I have notes on like 3 different things about the specific lead, like I went ahead and make a note that the screen is going to be on a roof or something like that. I would want to make that note on a roof, you know, on that, or this generator needs blank, whatever, that it pulls in from that rental notes from that item on that lead.
Yeah, in most cases, just using, you know, rental notes, it's going to pull in blank if there's nothing there, right? So it's not a big deal. The problem is when you want to add, you know, maybe like other text that says like, you know, so you don't have to type it every time, where you would say, you know, like Flinflix is providing licensing for, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you want that to show only for the item that you actually put that note, the licensing note in for.
Absolutely. And what I currently have is in that inventory item, there's extra details that are brought in when that inventory item is added.
Right. So you're talking even the notes field on the inventory as well, like the.
Yes. So currently I have a bunch of like squares that I fill in manually, but if I could just put in the word like rental notes and then it magically does it for me, very excited.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff should be possible. That's one of the beautiful things of InflatableOffice that you don't get with other software.
Absolutely. I'm super happy with the service.
We give you a lot of flexibility. So any other questions? All right. Our next session is going to be working with rentals or inventory. It's going to be another popular section. You don't spend as much time in it, but it's definitely an important part of the system. So we will be going over that. We'll start at 2 o'clock. I'm going to do one more call here for questions. And Cody, if there's anything you think you need to interject, feel free. And then I'll probably take a bit of a break on my voice. So.
I know with leads, you covered a lot of it. With what Nikki was talking about, that's also possible with other fields too, not just rental notes. So a lot of times I see people simplify their account down to just having one contract template, which is what I would recommend doing. It saves you a lot of time if you can do that. And some people don't understand exactly how that's possible because maybe they say like, you know, well, my contract's different if my delivery method changes, or my contract's different if my customer type changes. We can help you set up your contract template in such a way that those terms only display with certain customer types using the same method that Tim was talking about. So that can help simplify your account. And I won't get into that elaborately because everyone's got a different way of how they want to implement it. Just know it's possible. And if you're trying to simplify things down, it's probably possible to do that if you want to reach out to us on a personal level.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And the only thing I guess I would want to say with that is once you start getting into those more complicated setups for your templates, the editor there gets a little harder to work with, and you can very easily overwrite some of that stuff because it's not visual. You can't see it unless you go to source view. And so if you're doing complicated things like that, I guess I would just caution you that when you go to make changes, that you test your changes. And if for some reason it's worse than it was before, just go in here and say, I want to go back to a revision. And so you can go back to one that you had previously that was working, and then ask us, to help you get it, your change properly. So we can do that for you. So, any other questions? Great. I'm going to take a 5-minute break here and mute myself, and then we will resume in 5 minutes. 2 o'clock. Thanks.
All right, and I noticed we did have, Tim, you can go ahead and take your break, but I noticed we had a few people come in towards the end there. I just want to talk about, well, let me admit this person. 1 second here. So since we had a few people just join us, I just want to let everyone know that's just coming in what we've covered already. We did a general overview in our first session of InflatableOffice and the new interface and what it looks like, and how everything is, and in general, there's a lot of lists and items on that list, and then sidebars that help either filter that list or a navigation menu when you're looking at a particular item. And I'm not going to go over that completely because we had the whole session on it, and we'll be doing more trainings in the future. But our second session was just covering the leads page in depth and some of the new features there and things that are slightly different on the new page versus the old page, and how you can navigate around it by just either scrolling up and down, using the navigation on the left-hand side without necessarily having to save it and close it and open things up like you did on the old tabs. And then to let you guys know where we're going in the future, like Tim just said, we're going to go over inventory a little bit more in depth and things you can do there. And we may not go into depth on some of the minor features that not very many customers use, but we'll talk about some of the things that might look a little bit different and how to navigate around that.